It's time for some more Oscar predictions, everybody. Today I will be tackling the below the line categories, so all of the text, international, animated, and documentary feature, and I will not be predicting the short film categories today because I still need to do some research into them, still need to see some of them, so I'm going to leave those for my last video before nominations come out. And with that said, let's get right into the text. Starting off with cinematography, I know where your eyes are going when you see the graphic beside you. I am predicting Dune to miss the nomination here, and that's not because that's something I really want to happen. Dune is still one of my favorites in this category, but the cinematography branch has a history of not really ever nominating sequels for cinematography. For instance, The Godfather Part 2, not nominated. Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers and Return of the King were not nominated after Fellowship won the category. Avatar: The Way of Water wasn't nominated. A lot of times with these sequels, the cinematography branch looks at them and says, we already recognized that exact aspect for the first one, so let's ignore the sequels. And that might be happening with Dune this year because a lot of people are starting to come around to the idea that Dune Part 2 might just be The Two Towers, where it just does not perform as well as Fellowship did on nomination morning. And because of the cinematography branch's history with these sequels, I think that cinematography may be one of those categories that Dune fails to get a nomination in, even though that it won for the first one. But at the top, I think The Brutalist is taking this. Brady Corbet used VistaVision to shoot this film, which is a format we have not seen in quite a long time, and I think that narrative alone is going to be good enough for this film. A lot of Oppenheimer's narrative in cinematography last year was they used new technology to film 70mm IMAX in black and white. And the fact that Brady Corbet is bringing back VistaVision to use on such a massive movie, and it looks so beautiful, I think The Brutalist is taking this. If there was a film to upset The Brutalist, I'm thinking the most likely option is Nickel Boys, just because the cinematography is so in your face. That's one of the aspects you have to talk about with the film, since it's in POV. Everyone says it just looks beautiful. The only reason why I don't think it would upset The Brutalist is because some people have said that they were turned off by the first-person POV and it didn't work for them. But Nickel Boys is definitely the runner-up. Maria, I think, is looking pretty solid for a nomination. I wouldn't say it's a lock just because this is a movie that not everyone is responding to, but it is Edward Lockman as the cinematographer. He is a branch favorite. He just got nominated for El Conde last year when a lot of people were predicting other options. So with how beautiful this movie looks and the fact that it is Lockman, I think Maria is going to get this cinematography nomination. Nosferatu is starting to look better and better for this nomination in cinematography. It is winning close to the same amount of cinematography awards as The Brutalist and Nickel Boys in critics groups. I don't think that Nosferatu is going to be anywhere near win competitive in this category, but I do think that the nomination is looking more likely with how well it's doing here. There is precedent for these gothic vampire movies to get a few below the line nominations, and with how beautiful this movie looks, I think this is one of the ones it gets. Now, what do I have replacing Dune for this fifth slot? Emilia Perez. Some of you may be looking at me and thinking I'm insane for this, but Emilia Perez, I think, is going to overperform expectations with Oscar nominations. I think people are getting a little too ahead of themselves, saying it could tie the nomination record with 14. I don't think that is going to happen, but I do think there are a few categories where it could sneak in if it is overperforming, and the Academy is just going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for the film, and I think cinematography is one of those most likely categories. There are a lot of shots where the lighting just pops in the musical sequences, and I think if the Academy is giving it that love, this is one of the categories it can sneak into. Conclave is another strong option. The cinematography works really, really well for the story they are telling, but the reason why I don't think it's going to get in is because there just aren't enough shots that really pop. Most of it is just about careful shot blocking and making sure everything services the story well, which is great for the film, but there's only one or two that really get you going, wow, that is an amazing shot. The one with the cardinals walking through the rain with the white umbrellas being the main one. I don't know if that's enough for the cinematography nomination, but it's definitely on the cusp. The Girl with the Needle, I think, is one that people need to start watching out for. The cinematography branch has a history of nominating these foreign black and white films in this category, and if The Girl with the Needle is something that is seen enough by the branch members, this could sneak in there. Best editing, I still have Dune at number 1 here, but I have no confidence in that winning at the moment. I just don't know what to take it out and put in number 1. And with the sound editing stat, spoiler alert for sound, I think it's winning that. So I think that the sound editing correlation may be enough to give Dune the win here, just because there isn't one other contender that really feels like it is going to take it at the end of the day. Conclave, I suppose, might be the most likely option to take it if it's not Dune, because it is just a really tightly paced thriller that keeps you on the edge of your seat. And if this is top 3 or 4 for Best Picture, I could see it taking this, but I'm a little hesitant on that right now. The Brutalist missed the Ace Eddie nomination, which is concerning, but a lot of people are saying that's because of a screener issue, so I'm going to take them at their word for that. And because I have The Brutalist winning Best Picture at the moment, I think it's going to get a Best Editing nomination. Best Picture winners rarely ever miss editing. It's only happened a couple times in the last number of decades. So I think The Brutalist is going to be okay here, even though that it missed the Eddie. Anora I also think is good for the nomination because of its strength. It's undeniably top 2 still, so I think Anora's getting the editing nomination. I have seen some people putting it at number 1 because they want to take Dune out, and they're putting what they think is winning Best Picture at number 1, and I don't really see that happening. The editing seems to be the most criticized aspect of the movie, with most people agreeing that the second act runs on a little too long for their taste. The editing is also done by Sean Baker, so I don't really see why they would give him an Oscar here when they're already going to be giving him one in screenplay and maybe even director and picture. So I don't see an editing win for Anora in the books, but the nomination should be good with how strong the movie is. This 5th slot is becoming more and more clear for me. I think it's going to be September 5 at the moment. Even with critics groups who do not nominate it in any other category, they will nominate September 5 for Best Editing, and I think that may be something that repeats here at the Oscars. The Critics' Choice did it. I think a few other precursors are going to as well. September 5, like Conclave, is one of these really tightly paced thrillers that keeps you on the edge of your seat anticipating what's coming next. It's one of the best parts of the film in my opinion. So I think even if September 5 misses Best Picture, it can get editing a la Tick Tick Boom, which just barely missed Picture. Emilia Perez also might get in here if it's overperforming. I just am more compelled with September 5 as that other option right now. But Emilia Perez is also a film that, even though I'm not the biggest fan of it, it always kept me engaged. I thought that the pacing was very good in the film, so this is one category it could also sneak into if it's overperforming with the industry. Challengers would be a very worthy nomination here, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Challengers is below September 5 in Best Picture, so I don't see why Challengers would be above September 5 in editing when September 5 is performing very well in the category. The Substance, this is not going to happen. The film missed the sound shortlist. It really just looks like The Substance's only below-the-line nomination is going to be makeup, even though that it deserves to be competing in a few of these categories. Wicked has production design locked up for the win. I think they built all of these sets for the Emerald City and for Shiz. It just looks really impressive, very original, so I think Wicked's safe here. The Brutalist, I think, may be the runner-up in this category. It has been winning a fair share of critics awards here, which is cool to see, but I think the thing that is going to keep it from winning is a lot of the architecture is based on real life buildings, real life forms of architecture. So the fact that it's not as original as Wicked, I think, is going to hold it back. But because the film is about an architect and about his buildings that he's making and how that walks in line with the immigrant experience, I think the nomination is definitely safe. Gladiator 2 and Dune 2, both large-scale, grand, epic films that built a lot of their sets. I think these are both solidly in here. This last spot I'm a little bit shaky on, but I'm going to say it's Nosferatu. Between the castle, between the city as a whole, which has this really nice period aesthetic and adds to the gothic horror of the film, I think that this film has enough juice to get the production design nomination. That period prestige helps it a lot. Blitz, for a while, I thought this was going to be getting the nomination. If it ends up getting it, it would be very well deserved. The period buildings are all great, really makes you feel like you're in World War II London. It would be well deserved, but Blitz is just fading so fast. It feels like that with the Critics' Choice blank, it could just get a couple nominations at BAFTA and then that not repeat here at the Oscars. Conclave, I'm seeing some people put in their 5 because they're hesitant about over-nominating Nosferatu, and I see why, but I also wasn't really enamored with the production design. It's very good. They built a lot of the structures, but I don't know, it just doesn't really pop, and because it is very contemporary and doesn't have the period prestige, I don't think it's going to get in at the end of the day. Costumes, Wicked has the win locked up. I don't have to spend any time on that at all. Gladiator 2 and Dune also doing a lot with their costume design. Gladiator 2 really capturing that ancient Rome aesthetic. Dune 2, a lot of Lady Jessica's dresses, really, really well done. I think both of these films are locked in here. Maria, I think, is looking pretty solid. Also, like Cinematography, not a lock for the nomination, but it's looking good. The costumes have been getting some nominations with critics groups, and they are just very beautiful, very elegant. I think it gets in off merit here. Like with production design, I think costumes may come down to Nosferatu and Conclave for this last spot, and once again, I am leaning towards Nosferatu. Because I'm also predicting it for another category we haven't gotten to, it is really concerning me that I'm predicting it for 4. I think that seems like a little much, but I just think that the period nature of Nosferatu is going to help in comparison to Conclave's contemporary costumes, which are just really recreating existing Pope and Cardinal costumes. So I think Nosferatu gets in here off the period prestige. Conclave, those red cardinal costumes really do pop on screen, so I can see it overcoming some bias. And if Nosferatu is affected by the fact that it's a horror movie, Conclave could very well get in here. Blitz, I had predicted for a while. Jacqueline Duran is a very well-respected person among costume designers, but Blitz even missed the Costume Designers Guild for Best Period Costuming, so the fact that it couldn't even get that over some of the other nominees is really concerning. I just think Blitz is fading fast and it's not going to be able to get in here. Makeup, I think The Substance is winning this. I really don't see the alternative to it. The Substance has just been dominating in this category so far, and I think that's going to continue. Even if it doesn't get into Best Picture due to genre bias, I think it wins this category. Other options, I just don't feel good about. Beetlejuice, the first one won makeup. It's doing a little bit more than the first one did, but I don't think it's got enough going for it to beat The Substance. Nosferatu is the weaker horror movie within the Academy, so I don't see why that would win. And A Different Man is going to be a little too indie, a little too underseen among the entire Academy to be able to win, even though that would also be a worthy winner. I do think the 3 films I just mentioned definitely locked in for nominations at this point. Beetlejuice especially. The makeup branch likes to go with indie films that use a lot of prosthetics, so I think that A Different Man is safe. And Nosferatu, just the way they transform Count Orlok, I don't know how you don't nominate that. And for this 5th slot, I'm going to go with Waltzing with Brando. Do any of you remember the film Golda from last year? That's right, neither do I. But the makeup branch remembers it. They nominated it here just because it was transforming its lead actor into a real person. The makeup branch has shown that they will nominate these films that practically no one has seen as long as they are turning their lead actor into a real life person. Billy Zane in this film looks exactly like Marlon Brando. I think it's something that the makeup branch would do. Wicked and Dune just don't seem like the type of thing that the makeup branch goes for. They do go for these indie films that use a lot of prosthetics over some of these blockbusters that are really just a lot of hairstyling and maybe a little bit of makeup. I don't think the fact that Cynthia Erivo is green is going to be enough to get it a nomination with this branch, and I don't think what Dune does is particularly all that remarkable to get this nomination. And if we think it's underperforming from what the first film did, this is one category I can see Dune missing. Emilia Perez, if the industry really is just going bananas for this film, this is also another category where it can happen, mainly because of the makeup on Carla Sofia Gascon in the first act, but I think some of these other options are more in line with the makeup branch. Best visual effects, Dune Part 2 has this win locked up. If it only wins one all night, it will be this one. Planet of the Apes, a really solid number 2. This franchise is really just getting hosed when it comes to competing against all-time great visual effects contenders. Gladiator 2 would not be something I would personally nominate, but the visual effects branch has shown that they like to nominate their big CGI action blockbusters in this category. Mufasa, I think, is going to get it. It's doing very, very well at the box office. The 2019 Lion King got a nomination here. I think Mufasa is going to be able to repeat. And a surprise nomination I have getting in here is Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus performed very, very well with the shortlists, way better than I was expecting, so I think this is one category it can get in. There is a lot of precedent for the Alien films getting visual effects nominations. Alien and Aliens won the category. Alien 3 and Prometheus both got nominated. So I think Alien Romulus, with the fact that it had a strong shortlist presence, is going to get in here. Better Man is a film that a lot of people have in, and I can see why. I just think with the recent history of the visual effects branch going for more action blockbusters, and because I think Alien is going to get that preferential treatment with it being this franchise that the visual effects branch loves, I think Better Man ends up missing. Deadpool and Wolverine is one to watch out for. They tend to like to nominate a Marvel film in this category. I just think that there's better overall competition here. I could easily see it happening, but I think the 5 I have and Better Man are more likely. Best sound, as I mentioned in editing, I think Dune is winning this. It is just the most sound of the year. I think it's got it. I think the worm scene alone is good enough to win this award. Wicked and Emilia Perez, I both think are locked in nominations. Musicals in Best Picture always get this nomination. The fact that they're singing live on set helps that even more. A Complete Unknown, these music biopics tend to get nominations in sound just because they have sound in them. Maestro got nominated last year for really just that 6-minute cathedral scene alone. A Complete Unknown has a ton of concert scenes, a lot of really good sound mixing as well. It would be a worthy nomination, and I think it's going to happen. Once again, another category where I have Alien Romulus sneaking in. I think this is going to take the path of The Creator or Mission Impossible, where they get into visual effects and also get a sneak nomination here in sound. Both Mission Impossible and The Creator were like 9 and 10 in people's predictions for sound last year, and both got in. So I think that the sound branch is becoming more and more favorable to their sci-fi action blockbusters. I think Alien fits right along with that trend, so I think Alien gets this last sound nomination. Gladiator 2 can also do it, just a lot of sound all around. I just think that Alien is more likely at the moment. Blitz would be a very worthy nomination, just like production design and costumes, but like with those categories, it's just fading. I don't think it's going to happen. Score, it's becoming clear that The Brutalist is really locked in to win this. If you just listen to the opening track, it's good enough to win the Academy Award. I think it's going to happen, even if The Brutalist ends up underperforming with wins. Conclave is very clearly the runner-up here. Volker Bertelmann won for All Quiet on the Western Front, so I don't think there's going to be a big push to get him a second one in 3 years. But I think he is very safe here. Conclave's score is very, very good. so I think Volker Bertelmann is definitely getting another nomination at least. Emilia Perez is seeming more and more safe in this category. I was not sure about score when I saw the film, but it has been getting all the nominations it needs to. It gotten a Golden Globe, it gotten a Critics' Choice, even though the Critics' Choice didn't nominate it as much as I think the Academy Awards are going to, so I think Emilia Perez very safe in this category. Challengers, it's gotta get one nomination, right? Come on. You gotta nominate it here. It got Globe, it got Critics' Choice. I think it can also get the Oscar, even if Challengers isn't something that's getting a lot of other nominations or any other nominations as a whole. The competition and score outside of those top three is just really weak, and I see a lot of drawbacks with a lot of other movies, so I think Challengers gets in here. The Wild Robot I'm currently predicting for the number 5 just because it has been performing very well in the score category overall with Precursors, but we thought Spider-Verse was getting a nomination last year here, and it did not. There is a very apparent animated bias in the Academy, so there is a very good chance Wild Robot could get snubbed, but I just don't know what to take it out for at the moment. Wicked, I'm seeing a lot of people predict, but these Broadway adaptations never get score nominations. It's just original musicals. In the 21st century, there have been 3 musicals nominated for Best Score, all being original with their own original music, original songs. So with Wicked, the fact that the songs from the Broadway are really overpowering the actual original score, it's going to keep it from getting a nomination here. Sing Sing could happen. I just worry about Sing Sing's strength as a film. I think it is feeling more like a Past Lives, where score would be a very well-deserved nomination, but it's just too light to get in over some of these more in-your-face scores. Blitz could happen just off of a pity nomination, since Dune is not eligible and Hans Zimmer did the score for Blitz, but I don't think they're going to do that. Original song, one of the Emilia Perez songs is taking it. I think Mi Camino is the more likely among what the Academy Award for Best Original Song usually is. It is Selena Gomez singing it, so I think Mi Camino just feels like the song winner this year. El Mal I would personally prefer, but it is a lot of whisper singing, talk singing, so I don't think it feels like the normal Best Song winner. The Journey from the 6888, this is the yearly Diane Warren name check nomination. We don't have to say anything more. She's getting this just because of who she is. Harper and Will Go West from Will and Harper. They nominated a song from a documentary that did not get a Best Documentary feature nomination last year, so I think this could repeat and this song could get a nomination here. It would be a great place to at least give it some recognition. Like a Bird from Sing Sing, I think could sneak in here. Because Forbidden Road from Better Man is disqualified from this category, I think the Sing Sing song can get in. It works very, very well in the movie, and I think that if they want to give it a below-the-line nomination, this is the most likely category for the film. Kiss the Sky from the Wild Robot could very well get in. Like with score, I'm really hesitant just because I really don't believe an animated film is about to get 2 other nominations outside of animated feature after Spider-Verse got completely blanked outside of animated last year. Compress Repress from Challengers, it got the Globe and Critics' Choice, but it really just does not feel like a song that would normally get in here at the Academy Awards. Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late, this could also get that Will and Harper treatment of a song from a documentary getting in. Because it's Elton John, you have to take it seriously, but I don't think it's going to get it. Best International Feature, what's getting a Best Picture nomination? That's right, Emilia Perez. It's winning this category. The Seed of the Sacred Fig is not going to be taking the win here. For a while I thought maybe it could get into Best Picture, but it's not even the critics' sweeper for International. It's All We Imagine Is Light, and that film can't get a nomination here since it wasn't submitted. So I think Sacred Fig is very safe for the nomination, but nothing more than that. Same thing for I'm Still Here. There's no way it misses a nomination, but it's not going to be win competitive. The Girl with the Needle, I previously mentioned in Cinematography. I think it's looking solid for this nomination. I wouldn't say it's a lot quite yet, but it has been getting a lot of recognition at Precursors. It is very well acclaimed. I think this is the type of film that this branch would nominate. Vermilio has a lot of period prestige, And I've heard from others that this is right up the Oscars alley. If it was an American film, it would be getting a few nominations. So I think Vermilio is looking good for this fifth slot. Kneecap just feels a little bit too much like a Sundance film and does not really feel like in line with what the international branch nominates. They tend to like to nominate these more either period things or these more dour things like Girl with the Needle and Vermilio. So I think Kneecap may just be right on the outside here. Flo and Dahomey, I think, are both getting nominations in their respective categories, animated and documentary, but I don't think they're going to be able to sneak into international feature. I think they're going to follow the path of 20 Days in Mariupol, where it got shortlisted here, but it only got nominated in documentary. How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies, it feels more like an audience thing rather than an Oscars thing, and because it didn't premiere at any festival, it just isn't following the traditional path for an international feature nomination, so I don't think it's going to be able to sneak in. Documentary, we have a very solid top 7 here if we look at major documentary precursors. Anything after the 7 here, forget about it. Will and Harper, they never go with these celebrity documentaries, so don't even try to put it in your predictions. At the top, though, I Have No Other Land. I've seen some people try to snub it because it still doesn't have a US distributor, but this is the same branch that nominated To Kill a Tiger last year, which did not have a distributor. So I think that that isn't going to affect it because documentarians are going to be seeking out this film and are going to nominate it. And if it is nominated, I think it's going to win. It has been winning by far the most documentary awards. It is the most important one here. It is the most acclaimed one here. I feel like No Other Land is going to take it at the end of the day, even though that some in the Academy may lean towards Israel sympathy. I think No Other Land will have enough momentum for the win. Sugarcane has gotten basically every nomination it needs other than like Indie Spirit, so I think Sugarcane is looking very good for a number 2, and if Israel sympathy plays a very big role into No Other Land, I think Sugarcane could be the one to win in that instance. Black Box Diaries has a very thrillery feel to the film. I think it's something that a lot of people are going to like. It's been getting a lot of nominations at the precursors. I think Black Box Diaries is secure. A lot of people are still predicting Daughters, and I hope it gets in. It's very good. It's a real tearjerker, makes you cry a lot at the end. But Daughters did miss the IDA nomination, which is huge. So I think that Daughters may just not be enough to get in here with the documentary branch if it's missing IDA. 2 films that got both IDA, Cinema Eye, and Gotham are Dahomey and Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat. I think Dahomey's the more guaranteed one here. I think it's looking really good. Its director is very well respected. It's tackling an important issue. I think Dahomey's getting the nomination. Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, I'm really hesitant with because it is 2.5 hours, and I don't remember the last time a documentary that long got a nomination at the Oscars, but it is tackling a very important issue. It has been getting in at every single precursor, so I think Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat just might have a little bit more of an edge with documentarians than Daughters does, so for that reason I'm going to put it above Daughters. The Remarkable Life of Ibelin, I think, is obviously number 7. This missed the Cinema Eye, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the one it missed. I think Daughters and Ibelin are the 2 weakest among the top 7 just because of their misses at these major documentary precursors. Animated feature, I've had the same 5 since like June. These nominees are so locked in here. At the top, though, Wild Robot and Flow are obviously the top 2. I still think Wild Robot's going to take it because it has the more likely chance to get nominations outside of animated feature. But we thought the same with Spider-Verse and Boy and the Heron last year. We thought Spider-Verse was going to get visual effects and score, and Boy and the Heron was only going to get animated feature, but then Spider-Verse missed those categories and Boy and the Heron took the Oscar. Flow could get it. I would watch out for the Golden Globes and BAFTA because they both gave it to Boy and the Heron last year. However, I don't think Flow is going to have the same edge that Boy and the Heron did because That film had the advantage of being Hayao Miyazaki. Maybe his last film, it had a great narrative. I don't think that Flow has that same type of narrative clout as Boy and the Heron, so I still think Wild Robot's going to win, but I would watch out for these more international voting bodies. Inside Out, highest grossing movie of the year, getting the nomination. Wallace and Gromit, very, very well acclaimed. These Aardman films typically get in, and I think it's safe. I think it's going to get that BAFTA nomination. If I had to guess what was number 5, it would be Memoir of a Snail, because it's the most likely to miss BAFTA, and it has not been winning as many critics awards as I thought it was going to. I thought Memoir of a Snail was going to be the critics' push, but instead it's Flow. So Memoir of a Snail, though, is still very locked in for the nomination. Moana 2, I suppose, is the closest to the 5 just because of how much money it's made, but it really has no chance at the nomination still. So that's it with my below the line predictions, everybody. What did you think of my predictions? What are you predicting differently? How many do you think Amelia Perez is going to sneak into? Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you liked what you saw here today and you would like to see more, subscribe to follow the odyssey that is Oscar season.